people are here for the panel. So I want to thank all of you for taking the time this Sunday afternoon to come here. 2-month delayed Curito launch event. And I prepared cue cards because I have a small speech that I wanted to share with you guys before we start this panel. So thank you for coming. I'm really excited we could be up here today. So what is Curito about and what does it mean to me? I think one of the biggest challenges that we face today is how easily we are disconnected. So we might be here, but we're on our phones, so we're not really here, right? Or we are talking to each other, but we're not really listening to each other. We probably are more reactive than we, in terms of actually being more intentional with our actions. So I think because of all these reasons, in a small way, Curito is a means to help change that. Curito is not another wellness or event planning platform. Instead, Curito is here to create opportunities for people and communities to connect. So it is here to create opportunities for people to learn from new and enriching experiences. And I hope that at Curito events, guests are able to discover something new about themselves as well as something outside their comfort zone. And on a smaller scale, today's event is an expression of these elements. I know I have been calling today a launch event, but in reality, it is for me to thank all of you sitting here who have supported me and worked with me over the years and who have helped me to get me to where I am today. So, old friends, family who have seen me grow, new friends who have contributed to the journey as well. So there are Duncan and Ken, who are photographer and videographers, are new friends, but also through connections to the journey. And every one of you sitting here has played an integral role, not only in helping Curito, but also in helping me mature as an individual. So for all those reasons, today is a thank you in disguise. So now, without further ado, I want to introduce to you our main event for today. So some of you were at the yoga session earlier, and this is the panel conversation. So when I relaunched the new Curito website in November, I added a new pillar to my offerings, which is a podcast series called Curito Connects. And Curito Connects is about individuals' challenges and impactful moments that shape who you are today and the work you do. And a lot of us go through different phases in lives, right? So we all experience different things, and hopefully we all learn from our experiences. So some of you sitting here today, I think you can have a show of hands. Some of you have been on the podcast as guests. So Francesca, Lydia, Florian. So when those episodes are out, you can have a listen. And others have been listening to the episodes already. And so for the first time today, I am sharing a live session with you so you get a taste of the kind of conversation that are presented on the podcast. Today our theme is on family business in Taiwan, challenges we face. So here with me today, I have invited 3 speakers who come from multi-generational family businesses. My first speaker and biggest cheerleader, and also my sister, is Christina, who represents our family business, Manloy.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for supporting my sister.
Thank you for coming. Second is John Chen here, General Manager of Gloria Hotel Group.
Hello, everyone. Sorry, I have a cold, so I have my mask on.
And lastly, Winnie Chao, who's also a family friend and CEO of Ko Wen Education Taiwan.
Hi, everyone. I'm Winnie.
So I'm going to stop here and let our speakers say a few words, and we can deep dive into this conversation. This is really a preview because there's 3 of them, and we only have a limited amount of time. And I want to open the floor for Q&A, so if you guys have questions, you can ask them. So to begin, I'd like to ask our speakers to share what does your company do and the story on how or who started it. So Christina, you can start.
Okay. So our company started over 60 years ago. My grandfather founded the company. And before he founded the company, he was working at a transformer company in Taiwan as a purchasing director. And he was very good with languages. So he spoke Cantonese and Japanese and Mandarin. And so he was able to purchase materials for the transformer company. So he went out and started his own company to trade, to import electrical steel and insulation materials for transformer and motor companies around Taiwan. So that's what we do. Thank you.
Our company is also around 60 years old. My grandfather started it as it was a steel refinery, and about 60 years ago, actually, it's longer than that. 60 years ago, the government decided to move the factories out of the center of Taipei and to transform the city. And we built our first hotel. And since then, we're in the hospitality service. We have hotels, restaurants, and a shopping mall.
Hi, we're in the education business. My mom was a domestic teacher. She owned her own domestic wuxiban back then, and my father was a policeman. So I'm the only child, and so things happened, and my mom started thinking. She had me when she was almost 40 years old, so that was pretty late. So she started thinking, what can I do for my child? So at that time, she decided to explore into education business, and at the same time, Kumon in Japan wanted to start their business overseas. So that's how they got connected, that's how we started. But now we've kind of expanded into a whole family education system, so to service different age group. So hopefully I'll be able to elaborate more on that later.
Thank you. So I'm going to start with our first question. And so the first question is, what were you doing before you moved back to Taiwan, and why did you end up joining the family business? And was making this decision a hard choice? So who would like to go first?
Okay, right after college, I became a high school math teacher. And after that, I decided that, making money would be a fun thing to try. So I became an investment banker. I sold my soul. And then after that, through my banking times, I was in London, New York, and then in the end in Taipei. And when I was back in Taipei, I saw my dad and my brother working together at the hotel. And my brother actually studied hotel management. And I remember one morning I woke up and I saw them discussing, stuff about work. And I thought that was a very nice interaction. And even though, we see a lot of TV 电视剧 about family business, how horrible it could become when you work in a family business, all the arguments you're going to have, disagreements. That's true. But then there are the good stuff that they don't show you on TV because it's not doesn't get you any viewership. Yeah, it's not dramatic enough. Yeah. So that kind of gave me the idea that maybe I wanted to try to work with my father specifically, with my family, and at the same time it was around 2008, so the financial crisis was about to happen. So everything kind of just fell into places. I decided to quit, and the whole market crashed. My dad actually got sick, so I had to do a lot more work than I expected, and it sort of just happened that way.
So it wasn't a hard choice for you. It kind of just felt like the right thing to do.
Yeah, it was very natural. And I guess if you look at my careers, I started out in teaching math at a boarding school. Yeah, and then became a banker, dealing with money. I do it with my conscience. I don't try to cheat people out of their money. And then I became a manager at a hotel. So it was a very interesting transition, but I try to find the common ground in all three jobs.
Okay.
That's how we can elaborate more on that later. But yeah.
All right.
I'll go next because actually my background is somewhat similar to John's. So I was also a teacher. That was also my first career. So I was a teacher in Tokyo at an international school. And then after that, instead of going into banking, I decided, the arts and education, well, they need more money. People in the arts and education need more money so that we can spread more love around the world. And so I ended up working in also, it's like a finance firm. The company was called Artist Pension Trust, and so you were trying to invest for artists so that they actually have money when they retire. And then after that, I came back to Taiwan in 2009 because my father was diagnosed with bile duct cancer, and he passed away within about half a year of his diagnosis. But like John, I think everything I did and helped what I do today. So yeah.
So it wasn't a hard choice for you
it was
leave
not,
that career and then come back?
No, it was not, because I don't know if John and Winnie will agree with me. It's challenging, but we got to do a lot more than if we were otherwise. Yeah.
So with my situation, I was kind of brainwashed, educated in a way that I will be coming back to take over the business. So that was being told to me ever since I knew ABC. So that was in my brain, in my heart. But I was doing a lot of real estate business. I set up my real estate business in Australia when I was studying there. So I guess if I didn't come back, I would probably continue. But I think after I graduated from college, my mom wanted me to go to Japan to get some proper training with the Ko Wen Educational Institute. So I went there for 2.5 years. I developed the first English program for Taiwan kids. So I brought that back. I remember the first time I came back and I was holding the microphone and I spoke for 1.5 hour. I was shaking like this for 1.5 hour. I was so nervous. But that's just the whole process, of growing up and then of coming back and just being in the business. After I came back, probably around 16 years, a lot of those juicy dramas, for sure. But my mom fell sick. And I just had to step up and take care of the business. So it's just a lot of, not our choices, but it happens that way. But I think during the process, we're all trained and kind of, have the resources to go through that training process willingly or unwillingly. But it's a good training in the process. So when I needed to step up, I think I was ready psychologically, and I think skill-wise, I knew enough of the business. So that was what happened. Was I happy? Yeah, I think I was happy. At least I was here, and to just take care of my parents and my mom and the business and everything. So I think I'm content, and I'm glad how it worked out.
You guys make it all sound so easy. Like it wasn't that difficult to be like, I'm leaving my past life abroad and having to come back to Taiwan and maybe live with my family and having to work with my parents and my siblings. But okay, I guess you guys are all aligned on that messaging. Then I'm just gonna throw this one at you guys. Oh, do you want to add?
I think for the three of us, it just happened. It just happened. Like, I don't think we really had time to think about it. Like, we didn't have time to be like, oh, life sucks, or like, oh, I wish I were somewhere else. I think we were just in the thick of it. We didn't have time to think about it. And then again, of course, there were arguments, there were tears, there's great. I mean, it wasn't a walk in the park, but we got through it. I think, right? We're resilient people.
Well, I think that's important when it comes to things like this. You have to be resilient, right? So, okay, so then I'm gonna ask here, what were some of the biggest challenges you had to deal with? And it could be either personally So maybe it's like relationships or marriage or, with siblings, or professionally, right? So each of them are in different industries, right? Coming back with a more westernized background and having to come back to Taiwan and work with your parents or siblings, and then having to deal with a different environment with the staff here. So that could also be, professional setting, or so. You can, I guess you guys can choose which one you want to share in terms of you personally. What was a big challenge for you, and how did you overcome this?
Okay, I have a few. My husband, we met in Narita Airport, and that was a long distance. I was working there, and then he was traveling and on business trip. So we met at the airport, a long distance relationship for 2.5 years, and then he decided to move to Taiwan. When I said to him one day over the phone, I was like, I wish I could stop wishing we're together. And then he said, okay, I'm coming. So he came, he came for me, he dropped everything. So that's 23 years of our marriage, and it's still, we're happily married with 5 kids. But it is a big challenge. A lot of culture differences, and yet, and at the same time, I have to run the business. So to me, it's like juggling different balls, like business, my family, my husband, my parents, and the only child. I think it's the thing that's really hard for me. When one of my parents, my dad was on the 6th floor, and my mom's in ICU, and then it's like the whole business and my family. So I just need to try to figure out what to do. But I have a very supportive husband, and just very lucky. So I think challenges are not. Just need to be grateful, and knowing that there are people that close ones are next to you and are with you and supporting you, and just to go through that. So yeah, with business, in terms of business, I think I have to deal with a lot of staff who are much senior, like they literally saw me growing up, like they're my uncles and very senior staff. So after I came back, it's very hard to manage them. So that was one of the biggest challenge. But yeah, so slowly, one by one, I kind of maneuver, try to just work my way through, and try to solve each puzzle at a time. Yeah, so that was my challenges.
I'm just gonna ask further.
Sure.
Mother of 5 kids, and you didn't mention this earlier, but your husband actually doesn't speak Chinese, right? When he moved out here.
Yeah.
So, could you share a little bit about that in terms of how so you had to do everything, because he also participated, but that there, in terms of the spouse being here and having to navigate that environment with the kids.
To be very honest, if I had to do it again, if we had to go through it again, I would actually be more humble and pay more respect. I think a lot of things, because I was trying to protect him from a lot of different culture practices. So things that he might have said that I would not translate for him. I don't know if you could relate. But that was my fault. Looking back, I think I did that. I think it was just wrong of me to do that. But I was trying to protect him. But I wish I had not done that and let him be himself and just let him express what he thinks. Yeah, so the language thing, that's a big thing. He's literate now. But back then, looking back, I think that's one of the things I wish I could redo. Yeah, but that was hard. Just, everything relies on me. I'm just trying to be the mother of everything. But yeah.
I think that similarly, at the company, there were a lot of senior staff who literally, was at the hospital, when I was born. So these people were there for a long time. I mean, some of Katie knows. So when I took reign of the company, I actually spent a lot of time talking to each of these staff. I had coffee with them, I had tea with them, trying to figure out why they chose to work at the company, and trying to figure out why they chose the industry. Not everyone is built for hospitality industry. It's a lot of work, and you have to deal with a lot of different types of customers. And that took a lot of time. And for me, the biggest challenge, not only working with people who knew me for so many years, but also for people who actually are professionals in the industry. Because I came from I didn't study, well, I studied theoretical math, right? So math to hospitality is a big difference. So for me, it's all about logic. So I decided to take that approach, talk to each staff and trying to figure out what's your logic working here and what's your logic in choosing the industry. And I, as a manager or owner, how do I help them to excel at their jobs? And that took many months to do. And at the same time, I remember in many conversations, I assured them that I'm not going to be, again, going back to the TV shows, I'm not going to be one of those young boss who comes in and then just sack everyone. My job is, I told them that if my dad, my mom felt you're good enough to be hired to work here, there's no reason for me to get rid of you. I mean, unless, after working with you for some time, but I didn't say that during the coffee talks. But then, so basically, I professionally, I try to make sure that I have a very good and solid team behind me going forward when I became the leader of the company. And at home, I think I had to constantly remind myself that everyone in the family is on the same page. We all want the same thing. We all want to, for the lack of better words, to make money, right, out of this family business. So there are many different approaches to make the money that we all want. So it's important to, again, going back to logic, to explain to them why I chose to do it this way or that way, and try to leave the emotions out of the discussions. And I can only promise to do that for myself. I can't promise that my parents won't be emotional, my siblings won't be emotional, but I told myself that I had to be the one that's not emotional. And I constantly remind myself that I'm also just a staff of the company, it's not a one-man show, right? So I work with my parents, I work with my siblings, I work with a lot of senior staff. I'm trying to figure out the best combination of talent and strategy to make sure that the next chapter of the company is even better than the previous chapter. I'm not saying that it wasn't good, but that's why we're here. We're trying to make it bring the company into another generation of owners, another generation of new products, new services to our customers. So I think, in conclusion, a lot of the challenges are mostly emotional rather than professional, and you just have to make sure that you don't get caught in the heat of the moment and you start to argue with the staff or with your parents, and that took a lot of reminding yourself, a lot. And I often joke around, right? Because every dinner we have at home is a board meeting, right? It's imagine running a company that you have like 365 board meetings every year. It's not easy.
You eat with them every night?
Yeah. Now I don't, but I still eat with them every lunch. Every lunch. Yeah. So it's lunch is easier because I can say, I have a meeting, I have to go. But dinner time is tougher.
You mentioned a lot of emotional energy, and Winnie, you can answer this later as well, but for you, how did you go about learning to manage that, right?
I think one thing that I do is that I just look at them as my coworkers. I don't look at them as my parents, my siblings. You know, and there are many instances when people come to the office and when one of them comes into the office trying to argue with me, right? And I have to calm them down and say, you know, I try to make money too, and so do you. And I have 2 kids, so I'm trying to make more money so I can feed the 2 kids, right? And yes, we might have different views. Hello? Yeah. We might have different views on how to make the money, but they have to realize that we're on the same page. I think a lot of times in family businesses, when you have disagreements, it's because they forget that you're trying to make the company better, trying to, bring more in profit, bring more in revenue. So that's something you have to remind yourself, remind them.
Yeah, I think I share very similar experiences to John and Winnie, and I think the one major difference is that I took over in 2009, right after the financial crisis. So it's like war zone, it was like almost nuclear, and it's like you're trying to figure out how to survive. So during trying to figure out how to survive, and it was me and my mom, and my sister at that time were taking over together. So to everyone, well, to staff, right? Like they also was like knew me since I was like I was teeny tiny too, and I played hide and seek under their desks even, right? So to a lot of them, they're like, oh well, what do you know? You weren't involved, and my mom wasn't involved either. But it was crunch time because we had to quickly learn and we had to quickly figure out, what were the abilities of all these people who were working here for over 35 years, and trying to figure out what was true, what wasn't true, and how do we go forward so that the whole thing doesn't collapse. So instead of, I did try my best to have tea and slowly do everything slowly, but we didn't have that much time. So we had to make some very, very quick decisions.
Do you have personal challenges as well that you want to share?
Well, I think personal challenges in general, I think for just professionally, it was more like, well, and personally, really, it was just the age. I faced a lot of ageism at that time, ageism and sexism, because we're a very, very male-dominated industry. So being female and being 28 at that time, everyone just looked at you like you're an intern. Like, what do you know? And why should we listen to you? So I think that was very challenging. And because of that, you had to work extra harder.
And so what's your response to what we were talking about earlier about energy, like managing your energy and not getting too emotional when it came to dealing with your staff, dealing with our mother,
so
who you work very closely with.
Right. So
who is sitting over there in pink in the corner?
Well, I think a lot of people here know my mother. So I'm the logical one, like John. My mother is the more emotional one, and she will admit to that, I hope. So I just had to often remind her that nothing is personal. Like when someone is rude at a meeting, or when someone, when someone is rude at a meeting, it's not personal. It's not because you're a female or whatever. It's very easy to, sort of direct attention to something like that. But you just have to remember, well, he's there to get his side of the business done. And that's what he decided to say, that's what he decided to do. And so as long as you remind yourself, the way John reminds us all the time, that it's not personal, everyone is trying just to get business done, then it's okay. So I think, again, you just have to have that right mindset to do that. So there is that.
Yeah, I remember in meetings when I would be talking and all the staff managers will be looking at my mom. It was was like, hello, I'm talking, hi. So yeah, I went through that whole thing, it's like, it's just really hard. But definitely had a lot of arguments with my mom. And I went through that phase that I'm here to just make a living because I have 5 kids. At some point, it's just, I can't talk any sense into myself that why am I here? But I have to be here because of the responsibilities. It's just like, I can't resign. I wish I could say, hey, 不干了, 不做了, right? But I don't think we could. We had that choice. But of course we have that choice, but I don't think we're going to make that choice. So it's a lot of reflections, and I think also over the years, maturity probably also helped. And so emotion. We were talking about emotions. I'm turning 50 years old this year, and I'm really, really happy. Do you know why? Because I think for my 40 to 49 years old, I think it's just so tough. And it's so tough that I'm finally gonna get out of my 40s. I cannot wait. So I cannot wait. I'm counting the days. My birthday is in August, so I'm really seriously counting the days of like when I turn 50. I hope like in my 50s I will be happy. It's just a different stage in my life, and I truly look forward to that. But you know what? It's very, every step, it's worth it. It allows me to become who I am, and I found myself in a way that I know myself better, and I like that. So just to share.
I am going to extend that question by asking, because you guys were all talking about, working with your parents and working with older staff, right? So can you guys share kind of some of examples, some of the memorable examples that you've encountered dealing with those older managers that you had to work with, as well as the pivots that you guys made within the company, right? So maybe laying off staff, like all of you said, who've worked there, for 30 some years, watched all of you grow up in your diapers and, etc., to then really trying to figure out how to revamp the company by bringing in new ideas, having those kind of arguments where people probably said, oh, you guys don't understand. In Taiwan, we don't do it this way. You guys all, lived abroad, worked abroad, so you think you can apply that mentality to your respective industries. And some kind of, that kind of frustration of negotiation, or maybe not, maybe it was very smooth sailing. But, if you could also share a little bit about that, like how you guys pushed through with some of these changes you all implemented, whether it's in education, in hospitality, in factories. Yeah. Go first.
Okay, so for me, for us, because my mom is here, our biggest overhaul was our ERP system, because we had Taipei had one system.
What's an ERP system?
Oh, it's enterprise resource.
Some of us who don't know what that is.
Yes, it's basically a computer program. So you speak the same language. So for example, if you make pastries, and you have inventory coming, you put that in the computer system, and then the pastry chef will then use flour and eggs, and then they'll subtract it from the inventory. So it's like an inventory management system, a sales management system. It's a computer system that tells you everything about your company. So we had one system in Taipei, one system in our factories. And at the end of the month, I will always, always, always hear accounting and the people in the factory arguing, because they could never match, the numbers. Numbers never matched. And you're like, why not? Why doesn't it match? And they're always arguing, right? Because they don't speak the same language. So the first thing I did was we need to make sure they speak the same language. So we interviewed a bunch of ERP companies, and then we decided on one, and then I was like, you guys, this is what we're doing. So get ready. They were not happy, obviously. They were very. It took up a lot of time, everyone's time, including mine, because I sat through every single meeting to make sure that they got this done. And unfortunately, the ones who really couldn't catch up were the ones who saw me in my diapers. Like, they're the ones who really couldn't catch up. And it was sad, but we had to do, which was retire them early, or so finally the company speaks the same language now. Yeah, this is the logical approach.
When I first joined, I told the staff that my role in the company, I asked them to look at me as like a stage manager or set manager. Tell me what you need in your restaurants, in your hotels, and I'm going to provide. What type of lighting, what type of props or whatever. That's my job, because I'm the guy with the chop to, for the checks, to write the checks, to buy stuff for them. And that was my initial relationship with them. I was in more of a supportive role. You guys tell me what you want because you're more professional. And after I gained some confidence, and I also saw their potential, I decided to try more, find more new projects for them to do, because they were stuck in the mindset that, oh, this is what we are. We're old school Japanese style business hotel. That's all we do. Our service style is very Japanese. Our customers were 80% Japanese. They didn't think they could do something else. So I tried to find new projects, and we built another boutique hotel using the same team. And when the hotel opened, that's when they realized, oh, wow, I could do that too. I thought that was it was a growing experience, like a growing up experience for me and for them together. So that was very good. And so I gained more confidence. They get more confidence. They also gain more confidence in me as a leader. So from that point on, it was easier for me to, give them open-ended, questions or ideas, and most of them feel the urge to actually go try something or go find new solutions for an old existing problems that we might have. And so I think that was more of an evolution of my role in the company. So basically, I always look at the company as a living organism. We grow with the company. The company can be just a very slow-moving dinosaur if you want it to be, right? So as a leader, you can figure out ways to make it more nimble. But the change I'm talking about took years. Yeah, it took years to happen. But I think, for example, the first hotel I got on board in 2008. The first hotel opened in 2000. I forgot. A few years later. So long. The hotel has been 15 years already. So anyway, so it took a long time. And meanwhile, we actually also did the ERP thing as well, because I realized that we have a lot of things were done by hand, and it was tough. At the end of the month, you cannot imagine how much paperwork I have. I'm sure it's the same. Yeah. And at one point...
That's a common theme for Taiwanese businesses,
yeah.
Right? Loads of paperwork.
Loads of paperwork.
Logic doesn't really make sense.
No.
Lots of stamping.
Lots of stamping.
You're like, why do I need to stamp
Actually,
this?
My niece...
Why do I need to lock it in a safe?
When my niece was younger, right, she would see my sister, chopping stuff.
We all did that.
Yeah, and then so one day, her teacher asked her, what does she want to be when she grow up? She said, oh, I do... That's her goal in life, to 盖章. Yeah, but at one point, before we become more electronic, end of the month, I will be locked in conference, piles and piles of stuff that I had to 盖章. Some 传票, I don't know 传票的中文, but it's crazy. I kept telling my parents that this is stupid, because my time, we have to make sure everyone is more productive, with their time. We interviewed ERP vendors. We found one. I actually didn't give them an option as well. I just say, you guys will have to do this. We can do it. You can take your time in doing this. We didn't. I gave them a very long, frame, like almost a year.
Mine took 2.
It's not a competition.
Yeah.
ERP systems are complicated.
Yeah, but I think it was easier for us. I think it sounds like, it was much easier for us. But it was interesting because when we were going on to a modern ERP system, everyone thought we would fail. Even the reporters, because the ERP vendor was so happy that we were doing this because we were the first hotel ever in Taiwan to become a modern ERP system. So they were like, during the signing ceremony, we wanted to put a press conference. They asked so many reporters to come. And after the press conference, like 5 of them came up to me. They're like, you're going to fail, right? They're like, even the high-tech companies, when they do this, they fail. Are you sure you're going to do this? Yeah. Yes. But in the end, we did it anyway. And the benefit of it, slowly the staff actually sees, it's much for them to look at numbers, to analyze things, and when we have when we build new projects, they can actually build set up the ERP on their own. They become much more advanced in terms of technology and corporate management.
Winnie, you didn't have an ERP system issue, did you?
I'm not going to get into that.
Because just before you answer, I did want to ask, what is it about ERP systems in Taiwanese businesses that they didn't implement before, right? Like why is it? I feel like a lot when you talk to a lot of people who are in family businesses in Taiwan, ERP, these 3 letters, seem to be like a light bulb moment for a lot of people, especially the younger generation. They're like, yes, we're trying to implement this, but
I think it just exposes everyone, right? It just exposes everyone and like all the departments and how they were manipulating all the numbers and so they don't like that. So they want their freedom and they want their community. I don't know how to express that. So should I? Okay. I got two my personal experience to share. One was a guy that retired after 25 years, and he wanted to come back, and we were in the transition period. So I was like, yeah, well, come back. And I thought that guy was someone I could trust, and which I really trusted. So he came back for 2 years. After 2 years, I realized, oh my, he never thought too highly of my management style. He never was really loyal to me, and he wrote me the nastiest letter ever, to saying, you're not like your mom. Your mom was blah 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 blah, and you're like really bad and blah 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 blah. Really, the whole list. Wow, that was like a. Like like I woke up, I was like, wow, who am I managing? And these people I thought are really loyal to me, but they're not. And they're so fake. But they could fake it to a way that, to the extent that I thought, wow, I have a really cool team. I have a really good team. And I was like, no, I don't. That was last year, June. And I made a lot of realization, and I was like, okay, it's time to grow up, Winnie, and I had to really make some realization and really look at things at how it really is, and not just hope that these people will be as loyal as I hope they would be. So that's one incident I could think of. And another thing is we went through a 5-year transition period, and at the very beginning, I told all my managers and staff, I said, honesty, we will disclose all the information that we need to our instructors, to our staff. Every single stage, every step that we take, we will do that. So I think that actually got us through very smoothly because of that trusting base and that connection there. And I think that's very important. And I had, within this 5 years, I had to continue to remind my managers, I said, honesty, do not hide any information, total disclosure of all the information that we can at that period, at that time, right? So to just allow us to continue. I think each step we moved forward, we were very anxing, like content and very secured in a way that we know what we're doing and we're not lying to each other. We're not trying to sway fool, right? I'm not trying to like sell you or buy or try to lure you in with some lies. And I think that's very important. So that's the culture, hopefully, that we have like continue to build along the way. So, you know, you asked about the senior management. The differences in the practices and the culture that we want to cultivate for this new, not new, but like to continue to move forward. What's the culture that we want to cultivate? And I think that's very important that we need to have that clear in mind, and we need to step by step cultivate that culture that we want. Because it's our era, it's not like the past era, right? We can, yeah, so that's probably the challenge where we kind of grab everyone's hand and to move forward, but someone just refused to. But I told them, I said, if your hands continue, or if you continue to be that slippery, I won't be able to hold on to you. I'm sorry, you know, it's not my fault because it's so slippery I cannot hold on to, but I will try. But it's not only my responsibility to hold on to you. You got to hold on to me. So it's that kind of talk that I try to communicate with my managers.
So we all get 24 hours in a day. Everyone's equal here, right? So I wanted to ask, what keeps you guys grounded when you're faced with, you know, piles of paper to have to stamp for a week, you know, or dealing with your factory workers or your older management team, you know, and it could be anything, right? It could be you like your downtime to read, or you practice yoga, or you meditate, or whatever it is. For you guys, what do you do, right? And you all have families as well, your own family plus your family and bosses that you're working with. So I wanted you to share a little bit about what you do to keep yourself grounded.
I do a lot of self-talk. So I talk to myself a lot in a way that it allows me to sort out my thinking and to allow me to calm myself down. And I do a lot of breathing practices, and I think that helps. I'm having some problem like raising my arms, and my coach said, you have to breathe. I was like, I do, but you have to breathe deeply. I was like, okay, you know. So I'm practicing that. That actually helps. So breathing and self-talking and just be be grateful. And I think being grateful, I started writing in my diary like 2 years ago. That was the lowest point in my life. And so I've been searching like on YouTube's and what could I do to help myself? And so I found this lady, so she said, you know, write your gratification in your diary and write it down. Because I always say I'm very grateful, I say it, but I don't write it down. So I thought, okay, I'll try that. So I started writing it down. And then lately I found myself writing, Winnie, you are good. You are, I started recognizing myself, because probably no one like recognized what we do, or I just have to tell myself that I'm good enough, and I have to let myself know that I'm good enough. So I write that down, and I let myself know that, Winnie, you're good enough, and continue on this path, and I like who you are, and I think that really helped me.
刚刚听你这样讲，我很担心10岁的。I have 9 more years of pain. Anyway, I think when you're under a lot of stress and pressure, it's always good to have a way to, release it. 20 kilos ago, I used to exercise, as you know. 20 kilos ago. Now I sit at my computer and just research on my hobby. I read a lot of random stuff. I like watches. I like to collect watches. I just finding things that keep my mind off of work. Yeah, and it could be anything. And I actually breathe a lot too. That's why I'm still alive. But it's especially when I feel like I'm stuck, or when I'm at a point that I'm just going to lose it. I think taking a breath, step back, take a breath, calm yourself down. When you have more oxygen, you're more logical. You can calm down a bit. I think it helps a lot. And I try to go back to exercise, but it's very easy to find excuses. I try to do yoga. Again, it's very easy to find excuses, but I think the trying part it helps sometimes for me. Just yeah, and I also try to spend more time with family. I think that helps for me too. I have way less dinner appointments. Try to go home every day. And if I can, I try to go home for lunch, even just to see my younger one still not in school, so I get to see him. So I think it's important to make sure that you still have a life out of work, even though it's a family business. And I don't think it's that hard. You just need to. And when I say life out of work, I don't mean like something that you do constantly, but just something that you can, for a moment, you're not that, leader or owner of a company. For that moment, you're just enjoying yourself or enjoying the 30 minutes of freedom that you have from everything else. Yeah.
Yeah, for me, a lot of it's just like family and friends. I think friends are really important, and also just going to a lot of Curito events helps. I think yeah, no, that wasn't planned, but I was thinking about, like what happened in the past 12 years, and actually, yeah, a lot of what my sister does for Curito are actually things that I also enjoy. And again, it's not necessarily a well-being platform, but it's really taking you outside of what you normally do, and meeting new people and new faces. And so I think it's definitely like very refreshing. It's always like a restart. It reminds you that there's more to life than what you do every day. Even though we're also creating, we're making like life easier for other people in what we do, right?
Thank you for that. So what advice would you give your younger self now, knowing the path that you walked on, having moved back here, working in the family business, being in Taiwan? So that's my first question there. And what would you say to others to encourage them to move back? Like those who are listening, because this will be turned into an episode, so it will be on the podcast as well. So those who are listening who maybe do come from family businesses, or even just entrepreneurs who want Taiwan to be their base, what would you say to them? And lastly, in your particular industry, what do you hope to see change going forward so that Taiwan in your industry could level up?
To talk to my younger self, I think I would tell myself that, stay humble. I'm not saying I wasn't humble when I was younger, but it's very important to stay humble, stay level-headed, especially when you first took over a family business. The society looks at you differently, and you're gonna run into many different types of people. You have to stay level-headed to make sure that you're, you stay who you are. You don't go astray. You don't develop, good hobbies. Like for example, the last question we could just easily say drugs and alcohol, to release your pressure and all the pressure that you have. So I think I would tell my younger self that to stay humble. And if I look back to the things that I have done in my 20s, I would do it again. I took a lot of risk, a lot of risk that if I didn't bet correctly, my whole company will be gone. But I will still do it again because I think those were very good bets, educated bets. As a mathematician, we only gamble when we know we're going to win. So I will tell myself that to have more confidence in myself. But it's always important to remind myself that it's always important to doubt yourself in your decisions. Because if you can't convince yourself, don't do it. You have to literally convince yourself that this is the best possible move for you or for your company. So I think if I can talk to my younger self, I will reinforce that mentality. And I totally encourage people in moving back to Taiwan. I think people frequently look at, careers or places of living in a very black and white, mindset. It's good and bad, good or bad. But nothing is good or bad. Everything is good and bad, right? So moving back to Taiwan, there's a lot of good points, and there's also a lot of things that we had to get used to. But so I think it's a very this is a place that's very in need of more young people moving in, new different types of mentality moving in. I think that the country, the society just needs more. 怎么讲火花? Spark. People need to come here and then make it interesting. I'm not saying that it's not. I think Taiwan has grown a lot, and going. If you look at my industry, in the restaurant industry has changed so much over the past 5 years, and it's a very good change. And it only means that we have to work harder to stay on top, right? And that's a good thing. And I hope to see that in hotels, in shopping malls, because I think in my industry, the hotel products here are quite one-dimensional. All the hotels you see around. I know there is very interesting bed and breakfast, smaller places like that. But if you look at bigger scale hotels, they're all very similar. And I hope to see more change as we see in the restaurant industry here. And same with the shopping mall industry. There's a lot. I think Taiwan is probably one of the last 2 places with department stores in the world. Right? The way we manage shopping retail is very different from the rest of the world. So I think I'm not saying department stores are wrong or a bad way of doing retail, but I think I think in Taiwan I see more opportunity in different types of doing retail. So that's something that I think we're going to work on, in my company. And I hope to see more competition. I always welcome competition because that's one way to keep you, to grow. Yeah, so you're not lazy. It's easy. 20 kilos later, I can be very lazy if I want to be. But luckily, at work, I'm not that lazy. But
the question is, what would you tell your younger self?
Yes,
what you know now?
I was very engaged with John's answer. Would I do it all over again? I think, yes, I agree with John. It's important to stay humble. It's important to not be afraid and always to doubt yourself, to convince yourself that you can do it. So I agree with everything that John said. And in regards to my industry, because we're like 工业, and we're very industrial. We're a very industrial sector. What I would like to see in Taiwan is for people to really up their game by installing ERP systems, and really implementing good factory management practices. because I think there's a mentality in Taiwan where they think, oh, well, I'm running a factory, it's gonna get dirty, so I'll just keep it that way. But the answer is no, you can actually keep a factory very clean. You know, you have to maintain it, you have to care about your work. So I think I would encourage people to care about their work. And working in a factory, it's a skill. You have to have a certain skill set. Not everyone can go inside and work in a factory. And you should be proud of the skills that you have to work inside a factory. So I think I would, and again, this also goes back to what John's saying. I think there are a lot of opportunities in Taiwan, and it's not black and white, it's not good or bad. It's, you have to embrace all of it and really take advantage in front of you.
For me, yeah, humbleness. I think when you have a title, it's very easy to lose yourself. Yeah, but humbleness and honesty. I think honesty is a big thing for me. I always remind myself, it's like, Winnie, you wake up at night, you go to the bathroom, you watch yourself, you look at yourself in the mirror, you don't want to get scared. You want to be looking at yourself. So being myself, being true to myself and true to my belief, I think that's what guided me through all this. So 40 年代, yeah, I think you'll be fine. It's just, I break it down in 4 parts. So 20, 25, 50. So I'm looking forward to building up, like when I become 75 years old. So from 50 to 75, what do I want to do and how do I want to build it up? Yeah, so that is actually very exciting for me to look forward to what can be of what I do. Just now in the beginning I shared my vision for education. I hope to be able to service each family. Each family, like myself, with my husband, we have elderlies, we have younger kids. So I wish our organization will be able to service all different age groups with different services and products. Plus, I like to also take care of the caretakers and the teachers. I just set up a company for elderlies. My father passed away 2 years ago. It was impossible to find good quality help, like home help. So at that time, I was setting up a system how we could take care of my father at home. So we had 3 groups of people coming in 24 hours. I set up a system where, you know, how we monitor, how we record all the, you know, all the food and everything. So I set that company up last year, and I really wanted to take care of the caretakers because他们很辛苦. It's not easy. I tried to help my father. I tried to bathe him one time. It's just so hard for me because I'm not skilled. I'm not trained. I could not do it. But these people, they do it every day, and it's just very hard for them physically. But I think psychologically, they also need to be cared for. So for that company, one of the mission is how do we care for the caretakers? And I think with them being taken care of, like their wellness, I think they'll be able to do a much better job in terms of taking care of our loved ones. So, you know, education to me, I think has to go back to who this person is and how do we help this person to continue to grow. And in terms, you know, how do we help the person that we're servicing to develop and grow. So that's the whole thing that I'm trying to work on. So hopefully, yeah, be able to share later, more about it later.
Very, very exciting. Very cool things everyone is doing. So we're running short on time, and I usually wrap up my conversations by asking my guests to share words of wisdom, so you guys can, you know, be quotable. And also if you have any books or shows or podcasts or whatever it is that you like to refer back to for inspiration, if you could share one.
I remember when I was in high school as an international student at a boarding school, I was very active, you know, I ran for office, yeah, stuff like that. And my roommate one night asked me, why do we do it? And I just told him, you know, like Nike does it, just do it. And that's what from that point I kept telling myself that. And I know I'm stealing the quote from Nike. I hope they don't sue me, but just do it. I think a lot of times, I trust that everyone here, you do your logical reasoning, you think before you make a decision. But, it's like when you're standing in front of on the edge of a pool or a cliff, you need to take that leap of faith. You need to tell yourself, just do it. You've done your work. You've done the logical thinking before you take the leap. So that's, just do it. Yeah. And it's for inspiration. Well, I mean, just say it. I mean, I listen to I don't know, I listen to some podcasts, but it's mostly history based. And I feel like you learn a lot from history, and the podcast is called Stuff You Missed from History Class. Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's around 15 to 30 minutes, and there's a lot of, and then sometimes you listen to it, and then you go into this rabbit hole. You do research online, trying to figure out more and more about the subject that the podcast just talked about. But check that out, Stuff You Missed in History Class.
Okay. I tell myself everything is in the state of mind. Nothing is impossible. Conquer the unbeatable. So that's how I encourage myself each time. So when you look up Google, never ever give up, there's a picture of, I think, a seagull with a frog inside his mouth, and then the frog is in the mouth already, but the frog strangles the bird by its neck. So never give up, don't give up. I think there will be difficulties that we encounter, but as long as we're breathing, right, we're not going to give up, and we're just going to continue to move forward and to fight. Not giving up. Yeah. What was the next one? Okay. I just did a panel session on March 16th. I'm actually developing leadership programs for young women aged from 25 to 40 years old, and we're helping these young ladies to be interested in social work. And if they have something that they're already doing, we will facilitate that. So I did a session for UN CSW, and I'll send you the link. If you're interested, these young women are amazing, and I feel like, if I could facilitate training or to help these young ladies, young women or men, regardless of gender, I am so happy to do that. And we have 2 foundations that I'm really working into supporting different age group people and students to be able to better themselves. And there's sorry, it's a lot of time. I'll give you 2 more minutes. Baseball in Taiwan, these kids, their time have been sacrificed to practice and to go to games. Academically, they are so far behind, and I really want to do a program for them. And I have followed this class in Kaohsiung, Zhongxiao Guozhou, for 3 years. These kids, 7th graders, they could not do simple math. But after 3 years, the pitcher told me a few weeks ago, he said, I actually understand now why the coach asked me to throw this ball. Strategically, I understand now. I think as a baseball player, you need to be able to think and reason, and I think it's very important for these kids to have more choices in life other than just, I need to play ball, I have to do this, I only can do this. I want to give them more options in life. So I think, a lot of things that we do, so that's my recommendation. So if you're interested, can get in touch with Jen, and I'll share with you more about the projects I'm doing. Thank you.
So, never give up, just do it, and dream the impossible. Like, conquering the impossible feels great. And I think everyone should always continue to have that dream of conquering the impossible. So just remember, never give up and just do it. And in regards to books I've been reading, I think I agree with John. A lot of historical books, historical fiction is great. If you can't get into, real historical, like historical fiction is great. I just finished Pachinko. I don't know if you guys have read that book, but it's really great. It talks about Korean and Japanese history. But yeah, and a lot of biographies and autobiographies of great leaders and what people have done. I think I learned a lot from other people, and that keeps me humble too, because I'm not that amazing. Like, I think lots of people have accomplished lots of amazing things in the world. Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you, all three of you. And I want to open the floor if anyone has any questions for them.
好，谢谢。我这边自带 spotlight。好，我有2个问题给2位 Lady Boss， 然后第一个问题是给 Christina， 就是刚刚就是请你分享你在就是接管公司的这段期间，其实我印象很深刻，是你提到说这些改变想推动改变，它都不是一夕之间，而是一个过程。那你刚才分享很多你在这个产业之中面对很多挑战，包含说像性别啊、阶层啊这些挑战。那反过来，我很想要就是了解，然后听看你的分享是，那有没有什么样的事件，或是有一天的发生，是你有被感动的，是你觉得当时有接受到这个挑战，来公司做这个职位真的是太好了，一个你感动的事件。那另外一个问题是想问 Winnie， 因为刚刚你有提到说，就是其实在管理团队这件事情很难，然后你也透过书写记录去自我反省，然后也自我认同肯定，然后去消除那种自我怀疑的不安的情绪。那当你回顾过去这10年，你说好不容易50了，然后当你回顾这10年，然后如果你再翻阅一次这个记录，有没有哪一个决定是你现在回想过来你觉得太棒了，做这个决定？它可以是一个投资，可以是一个学习，可以是一个什么样的记录，或是你做的事情这样子。那中英文回答都可以，我只是中文比较好表達。好，謝謝。
For the English speakers here, the question Freya just asked was, after going through all these challenges, after taking over the family business, was there any particular incident where I was particularly touched by my accomplishments? And I think there are 2 specific incidences. One is basically when I walk into the office and I actually see staff getting excited, collaborating and solving a problem together, because you would never have seen that in the past. And so when I see that happening, and when they're like all excited about coming up with a conclusion, or with an idea on how to solve a particular problem, I mean that's just like, that's just really very, very, very touching to me. And then the other example is more personal. I was on the phone with the secretary of some 大公司, like a company's president. And she's like, I've never met you, but I've heard our president talk about you and what you've done. And it's really touching to hear about your story, you and your mother's story. And, she's like, 就是很感动. And so to me, that was awesome, because I've never met this lady, but I spoke to her on the phone, and she felt very 感动. So that was touching to me as well.
Okay, thank you for your question. So her question was, over this 10 years, what was the best decision I've made? I think one was definitely the decision to change our system in a way that I had a new contract with Kumon, and that was a big transition for us. But to me, I think companies' goodwill is more important than making money. So there were a lot of hard decisions that I need to make, because in our old system, we still had over 700 centers at that time. But switching over, that means we could start from 0. I had to break it and restart. But that was a hard decision because all the centers were still running. And how do I tell these instructors of 30, 40 years tenure that in 5 years' time, we will be closing down your center? That was a hard decision, but that was something I needed to do for us to continue to have Kumon method, Kumon system in Taiwan to service our Taiwanese kids. That was the hardest decision, but I made that decision, and there was just a lot of noises, and even my mom, she was against it. But I told her, I said, look, your era is really coming to an end. Era meaning all your connections, everything. I had to make sure we can continue to look forward. So a lot of discussions, a lot of arguments, a lot of whys. Why do you need to do this? Why do you need to do this now? So, you know, I think I just need to make sure that my mom, who has dedicated her life in this business, I wanted to preserve her goodwill. And to me, that's more important than the business itself. So in terms of the best decision, I think I've made that decision and I'm very proud of it. We have finished our transition last year, December, and we're going strong. So I'm very happy that we actually survived. 那个转型是最难的，我觉得很多时候转型转不过了就垮了。整个就垮在那边。But I am very happy that with honesty and disclosure of all the information that we were constantly communicating with everyone, that we are able to walk this 5 years transition period and that we're able to have a brand new chapter that we're starting now. So yeah, so I guess that was my that was the best decision I've made, and I'm proud of it, and I'm proud of my whole team and our instructors that walked with us. Yeah, so to answer your question, thank you.
谢谢。
Hello. First of all, thank you for sharing all your experiences to us. It's very, very interesting. I wanted to ask, because you are all in very different industries, and you have a level at which you can have an impact. And I was wondering if you are also able to lobby in the official level to make things change, not only in your company, but at a national level, at a state level. Is that also something that you're trying to do and implement for the better, you know? Yeah.
Yes, we try very hard. My job allows me to see regulators quite often. And so we actually spend a lot of time as a group of hotel owners to give advice to the government. Whether or not they take it, it's something else, yeah. But and usually our advice is based on our true and actual experiences on the job. And it could be, or it could be, for example, recently, we've been looking at a lot of government projects, and the government has public 招标案, right? And to us, I think inherently there's something wrong with the law that keeps good investors from investing in these projects, because the better you do at it, the better you do your job, the higher your cost will become, right? So for example, our shopping mall in Taoyuan, the land cost doubled even before we grand opened the shopping mall, right? And after we grand opened, the business is good. So it really elevated the land value around the shopping mall, which also elevated the land value of the shopping mall, which means the land cost keeps going up because I have to pay rent based on land value. So stuff like that, policy stuff like that. You know, we constantly make suggestions to the government, but it takes time. It takes time because they can't be seen to be helping one specific company, right? So But then at the same time, it's the logic of the law. For all the investors, we all look at the policy, and then we think, we can. Basically, the policy makes you do an okay job. You can't do a bad job, because if you do a bad job, they're going to fire you from the招标案. But then, if you do too good of a job, you're going to increase your own cost, which is a very like an oxymoron. It's very strange. But anyway, this is just one example. We do a lot of, because another more extreme example, our hotel in Kending, the land value rose by 20 times. Oh, not 20%. We're talking about 20. Actually, no, 20 times in some parts of it. Some parts of it went up 50 times. So that means my rent went up 50 times. So that's crazy, right? And so we try our best to negotiate. And the law has changed. The law has changed. So to allow, whenever there's a drastic increase in land value, the rent calculation isn't so drastic, but it's still a very high number for any business to endure. But anyway, going back to the question, we do our best to talk to the government to try to tell them that, as business owners, what we see could be changed to improve the investment environment in Taiwan. And I forgot to repeat the question, but I think the question was, as our role, do we, talk to the government or regulators to make better policies to improve the environment for investment? Yeah.
We don't directly deal with policymakers, with government, even though we do government business. We do it through our customers. But in general, we would like to think that everything we do sets an example. So we hope that we get noticed in that way, from our foreign workers' dorms to the way we manage our factories to the way we treat our employees. So our hope is that we just lead by example, and hopefully, they'll see. Because I'm sure it's frustrating to deal with policymakers. So we don't really waste our time, so to speak. But yeah, I think it's quicker to implement change around you first and let other people see.
Thank you for your question. I take a different approach. So with our foundations, for over 9 years, we do sponsor schools and different projects. We never apply for any subsidies from the government or ask for any donations. My thinking was, if we have the ability, we donate our teachers and our program, and we go in, we take care of each and every child, every student. So these 8 years, we have some results which I think we could start showing our progress and to make a difference. And I like to say, I think in Taiwan, the government provides a lot of subsidies or like money to sponsor some projects. But I just got in touch with a school in Hualien, 在玉里花莲很偏僻的一间国中。Grade 7, grade 8 students. The principal was so nervous, like, Winnie, could you help? Because these kids go into classroom, they could not do 7 plus 8. They could not do simple mathematics. 7加8横式不会写. 7th graders. And I was like, why? A lot of these foundations, they apply for so much money, but what are they doing? What are they doing? And these poor kids going to high school, it's just heartbreaking. So to me, one name, one story, pursuit of potential, that's what I want to do. I want to just focus on each child, and if like companies or donors, they want to sponsor kids, I think they're welcome to, because this is a program that we have proven ourselves that we're actually helping these kids. But I think talking to the government, unless they come to their senses, I don't know what else they can do. I'm sorry. Oh my gosh, we've been tape recorded. But It's okay. It's okay. I'm okay. I stand behind my words. It's okay. But that's the. Yes. But that's the truth, and that's what's happening in schools, and that's what's happening with our students in Taiwan. And I do feel very strongly that instead of going overseas, well, let's help overseas. Of course, we need to help overseas, but there are a lot of students that we need to help in Taiwan. We need to help our own kids. Okay, that's something I want to do. International, yes, we try, but hey, let's take care of our own kids, because who's going to take care of them? Who's going to remember our kids? And we got to help them. So this is what our two foundations are doing right now. We are focusing on just finding these projects that we could go in and help our kids. And so to talk to the legislators and do that, I do. But I don't put too much. No. I don't put too much. I don't expect them to do anything to change unless they know that this is really something that they should consider, right? So if I could give them the results, say, look, this is how we could help, maybe they could consider it. So that's what I'm trying to do. So starting this year, I will produce that, and I will go talk to them. Also, one thing, we're starting a reading program for youngsters connecting with the SDG. So starting with young, literate kids, we want to develop our kids to be literate, to be able to read, right? And then we introduce SDGs, what's everyone concerning about, what's everyone talking about, and these are the topics that we can introduce to our kids. And they become international, global citizens. And so we need to educate our students. This is what's really, truly very close to my heart, and I really want to do something for our students in Taiwan, all our kids, right? So, yeah, thank you.
All right, okay, I think we are wrapping up here, and thank you for listening, and thank you to our panelists today. And food in the back, alcohol in the back, and then you can maneuver out here to the courtyard where our musicians will be playing an hour of live jazz for us. And you can mingle, catch up with old friends, meet new friends, leave as you wish. I think it's pouring right now, so maybe you want to hang out here for that and then wait for the rain to stop. So thank you so much.